This week, Actors Take 5 returns to talk about 5 ways theater may change forever after COVID.
Actors Take 5.
Hi, the Inspired Actor here. If you're new to this channel, we are dedicated to helping actors become better artists by offering videos on acting, theater, film, and more. Go ahead and check out our channel to see what we're about, and if you want to see more videos like these in the future, go ahead and subscribe so you'll be notified as soon as they come out. Also, take a moment before you forget and hit that like button, as it really helps me out. And if you know people who might like these videos, please don't hesitate to share them on your social media outlet of choice. So, if you are a performer of any kind, then you know this pandemic has been incredibly difficult. I don't need to tell you that venues have shut down, in many cases forever. Performers have had their lives turned upside down, emotionally, financially, and artistically. Most of all, the human cost has been tremendous. It's been a terrible, dark, horrible time, without question. For most of us, the only thing that has got us through this has been hope. Hope that the theaters will reopen again. More people will start doing film again. That we will be able to do our craft once more, offering the world what it is we believe we were put on this planet to do. Already, this is starting to happen. Theaters are beginning to reopen and offer auditions. The film industry is bouncing back and things are starting very, very, very slowly to go forward into a new normal. I say new normal because in many cases, theater in particular will probably, and maybe hopefully, never be the same after this forced reset. There are things that are happening that the consensus of theater practitioners agree were long overdue to be changed and discarded completely. And there are some exciting prospects, new innovations, and new directions that theater will probably continue to explore and develop long into the future. Here are 5 of them that I believe might be permanent. 1. A greater emphasis on equity, diversity, and equality. If there is one thing that this pandemic has laid bare for all to see, it is the inherent inequities in our society. Discussions about access to health care has led to larger discussions about access to everything. And the simultaneous rise of movements like Black Lives Matter and Me Too have forced a welcome change in our approaches to equity and diversity across the board, and especially, in our case, our cultural institutions. Everything from how plays are selected, to who selects them, to who has access to see the shows in the first place are beginning to be addressed. Gone are the days where theaters can get away with an entire season that ignores BIPOC plays and issues out of fear that they will alienate their audience base. That argument simply does not hold water anymore, and theaters are not only trying to be non-racist, but actively anti-racist by changing policies across the board. It's a good thing, too, because if you are a not-for-profit theater, you will find it much more difficult to obtain funding if you do not have a strong policy in place that addresses diversity and inclusion, not to mention programs that deal with these issues directly. Additionally, you will have to begin actively hiring BIPOC actors, directors, designers, board members, and staff members. Funders are beginning to put wording into their grant proposals to this effect. If you're a theater that depends on such funding, you would be wise to begin now. 2. The regional markets will boom. This pandemic has seen millions of people flee larger cities in search of more affordable and larger living spaces. Many of these people comprise the creative class of actors, writers, directors, and so on, who have found they can still effectively collaborate with big city theaters through Zoom and similar mediums. On the other side of this, audience members who feel that they can no longer safely travel to larger markets will begin to seek out local theater at home. Unlike many theaters in New York and London, where their profits are driven mostly by ticket sales, regional theaters, many of them non-profit, which allow them to receive grants and other public funding, will find that they were better able to weather the storm. Most of them have been able to survive the pandemic because ticket sales represent only a portion of their annual budget. Not that it's been easy. But having survived, they will be able to offer affordable, quality theater to a local audience hungry for theater and performance. Smart cities and regions will pivot to welcome these creative artists fleeing more expensive areas with open arms. Over time, more performers will begin to flock to those cities, and viable alternatives to New York, Chicago, and LA, both in theater and in film, may begin to emerge. Now, this isn't a sure thing by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a probable thing according to Fortune Magazine, the LA Times, and others. 3. Zoom and online performances are here to stay. I won't argue whether Zoom performances are actually theater or not. It was born out of the necessity of reaching audiences and fellow performers at a time where physical proximity was impossible. That being said, many theaters found that it was not only a necessity, but also opened up a window, no pun intended, to many exciting possibilities. What about audience members who will never be able to attend their shows either because they don't live close enough, they're housebound for one reason or another, or they simply cannot afford a ticket? How about shows for students who can't attend and whose schools can't afford to make a field trip? Here is this exciting new tool, not only to showcase their performances, but also to hold workshops and provide personalized material for students and audience members of any age. What's more, Zoom and other similar online services are fairly simple and cheap to set up and getting better all the time. Yep, Zoom or some form of Zoom is here to stay and will never go away. 4. Most shows will get simpler, smaller, and less expensive. Don't get me wrong. Theater as escapism will never go away, and what theaters that are left that are able to do that will continue to do that, maybe bigger than ever to reflect our need to escape the utter gravity of our time. But many theaters simply will not be able to take that kind of risk. Shakespeare lived in a time of plague, a time when theaters could find themselves shut down at any moment. Therefore, his space was comprised of a simple set that called on the audience's use of their own imaginations to take them to the times and locales he wrote in the script. Now, sadly, we live in a similar time. And while I hope that I am very wrong about this, many scientists are saying that COVID is sticking around for years, if not forever. Theaters, particularly mid-sized regional theaters that have been known to invest heavily in spectacle, might decide that it's not worth the risk. And having a lot of actors on payroll for a show that you could have to close due to COVID also won't make a lot of financial sense. So, look for more outdoor theaters and/or simple sets like Shakespeare did. Or more 1- or 2-person shows, again with simple sets that rely heavily on the audience's use of imagination. 5. The line between actors' unions will get muddier and muddier. Finally, let's talk about the two actors' unions, Actors Equity Association and SAG-AFTRA. Actors Equity is supposed to deal exclusively with live performances on stage. SAG-AFTRA deals with everything else: film, television, radio, online performance, voiceover, and so on. Any broadcast performance. As I mentioned earlier, Zoom is not going away, but as it is an online medium, it has already been a subject of contention between the unions, and that issue will not be going away anytime soon. Yes, there was a temporary compromise over the summer of 2020, but after the end of 2021, with every theater having to issue 2 separate contracts to their actors from 2 separate unions, the likelihood of drastic changes seems feasible, if not inevitable. Yes, up to and including a merger of the 2 unions. Look, making predictions is a fool's game. Maybe none of these things will happen. Personally, I'm cautiously optimistic that theaters will emphasize diversity and inclusion permanently. Living in Metro Detroit, I can say that this is long overdue. I also hope that regional markets will thrive post-pandemic. One, because I live and work in a regional market, but also I think that being a creative artist and not living in a one-room studio apartment or with half a dozen roommates and having a family and some stability don't have to be mutually exclusive to each other. I think other people are starting to think that too, and that's exciting to me. I don't know about the last 3. Time will tell. This video is doomed to get very dated and probably embarrassing for me at some point in the future. So I'll preemptively make fun of myself. Boo! You're dumb! That's it for this week. Again, if you liked this video and want to see more stuff like this in the future, then I predict that you will subscribe and hit that bell. See you later, colleagues. Boo! You're dumb!